He was born with no name worth remembering. A child of the gutter, orphaned in the shadow of the fractured citadel of Devoured. In the lowest reaches of the mortal world, where gods were distant myths and survival was a daily war, he was known only as Ashen, a name taken from the burned ruins where he was found, charred and screaming as the embers cooled around him. From the very beginning, Ashen was different. Not in kindness, nor in wisdom, but in sheer will. Where others begged the gods for mercy, Ashen spat at the heavens and carved power from the filth. He did not pray. He took. By the age of 10, he had learned that compassion was a weakness and trust was a death sentence. When the cult of the blood god Vorthax came raiding the outer slums, Ashen betrayed his village to them in exchange for protection. But when the raiders made the mistake of trusting him, he poisoned their food and slit their throats in their sleep. He kept the cult's sigils, their knowledge, and their power. He spent his teenage years studying forgotten rituals, stealing arcane secrets from tombs of the dead and libraries guarded by magic. He offered no loyalty, made no alliances that weren't designed to end in blood. He had one goal, to escape mortality, not through faith, but through conquest. By the age of 20, Ashen had assassinated 3 warlords, absorbed their followers, and declared himself a god in flesh. No miracles, no divine revelations, only fear. His voice was iron, and his hands bore the tattoos of death and fire. His enemies laughed until he brought the sun down upon them, using unstable relics to raise entire keeps to ash. The people mocked him at first, until he slew the false god of cinders, a minor deity who ruled the volcanic borderlands with magma and smoke. The battle was not noble. Ashen ambushed him during a solar convergence when the god's power waned. He used cursed blades forged from voidstone, inscribed forbidden sigils into his own flesh, and unleashed a storm of blood magic. He was torn apart in the process. His skin split, his bones cracked, but he devoured the god's essence while screaming in agony. When the smoke cleared, Ashen rose with flames dancing across his shoulders, his eyes glowing red like coals forged in hate. He did not walk from the battlefield. He floated, gravity broken beneath his fury, and the laughter stopped forever. Ashen crowned himself as the Ashen Lord, a false god ascended not through divine birth, but through conquest and bloodshed. He raised a black spire over the ashes of his enemy's temple and proclaimed the dawn of a new era, an era where gods were not worshipped, but replaced. His following spread not through love, but through terror. Cities kneeled to him because resistance meant annihilation. Those who refused had their gods dragged from their altars, their statues shattered, and their priests crucified atop their sacred hills. He demanded worship not from belief, but from obedience. His temples were not places of peace, but fortresses of fear. Power flowed from him, wrong and volatile, tainted by the stolen divinity he had consumed. But divine it was. He built monuments of bone. He silenced prophets in pits of fire. He unleashed storms upon cities that dared speak his name in vain. He desecrated the heavens and challenged any who called themselves divine to meet him in battle. Few accepted, fewer survived. And yet, he was not satisfied. Ambition gnawed at him like a fire that could never be fed. He set his sights on a true god, Kaelyth, the Dream-Warden, guardian of the moonlit plane of reverie. A being of serenity and starlight, Kaelyth was said to walk through the dreams of all living beings, shaping prophecy and fate. Ashen saw in her the next step, a target, not a mystery. He believed himself ready. After all, he had killed gods before. He had risen from soot and screams. But Kaelyth was no pretender. She was not one of belief or fear. She was a true god, woven from the very threads of thought and time. Her realm was not guarded by armies, but by silence. When Ashen entered her sanctum, he found no throne, no defenders, only a garden of still air, stars that did not move, and a silence so deep it became a scream. He struck with fire and fury. He conjured flames that devoured stone, bloodstorms that shattered sky. He screamed defiance to the stars. She responded with a thought. His body disintegrated, his essence scattered across her realm. In her dream, he lived and died 1,000 lives. He forgot his name. He wandered as a beggar, a slave, a broken child. He tasted every failure he had inflicted. He saw the paths he could have walked and the gods he could never be. And yet, he survived. Not whole, not untouched, but alive. His divine spark flickered, warped, damaged beyond repair. He crawled from her realm, not as a conqueror, but as a shadow of what he once was. A god broken in thought, his form a patchwork of divine remnants and unhealed hatred. He could no longer grow. He could no longer ascend. He was trapped, Trapped between mortality and godhood, worshipped by the desperate, feared by the weak, scorned by the heavens. He remains a false god, too powerful to be mortal, too flawed to be divine. He builds his strength again, piece by piece, scouring ruins, corrupting disciples, forging alliances with beings older than the stars. He watches the gods who laughed at him. He watches Kaelyth in silence. For Ashen does not beg for apotheosis. He takes it. And the heavens are watching.